I've heard it said that when a war ends, the silence screams louder than the gunfire ever did. I never understood that, until the day the skies went quiet over Argon Prime. We were supposed to be celebrating. Confetti drifted like snow through the ruined cities. Holoflags shimmered across broken walls. The Alliance had declared victory. The enemy's warships retreated beyond the Veil Nebula, and their high commanders signed the terms with a trembling claw. They called it peace. I called it pause. My name is Lieutenant Rhea Calderon, 1st Orbital Drop Corps, Helljumpers. They call us. If you know the name, you've seen the vids. Explosive entry. No warning. No retreat. No survivors. On the enemy side, anyway. But that was before the war was won. Before the politicians started shaking hands, while our brothers' and sisters' bones still lay under collapsed colonies. I stood on the balcony of the Hall of Unity, watching the fake celebration unfold. My armor still stank of plasma scorch and scorched flesh. Metals glinted on my chest, but they felt like lead weights. Across the plaza, I spotted Commander Threx of the Vorner Dominion. He was our ally now. Sort of. His species fought like berserkers. But when the tides turned, they bent the knee fast. He raised a goblet in my direction. I didn't raise mine back. Beside me, Major Grant exhaled smoke from an old-world cigar, one of the few luxuries salvaged from Earth before the orbital siege. His voice was gravel soaked in bourbon. You look like a woman who knows the war ain't over. It's not, I said flatly. He didn't argue. We both saw the signs. The enemy hadn't been defeated. They'd retreated. Strategically, efficiently, like predators conserving strength. They didn't lose the war. They ended the first round. And humanity? We were just getting warmed up. My instincts were confirmed 3 days later. We got the distress call at 0300 shipboard time. Colony Gamma, 9. Population, 12,000. Signal came in fragmented and blood-choked. Screams. Static. A single phrase repeating in 6 languages. They're back. We were wrong. Oh, God, they're back. We broke atmosphere before Central Command could even authorize it. Our dropship, Valor's Edge, descended like a meteor into Gamma 9's atmosphere. What we found wasn't a battlefield. It was a massacre. Charred bones lined the perimeter of the colony's central dome. The sky was tinted purple with ionized vapor, evidence of Korthian war beams. Structures weren't just destroyed. They were dissected, peeled open, examined. Grant, and I made it through the outer ring first. He scanned the scorched grass and muttered, "No defensive fire. No struggle. They didn't resist." Or didn't get the chance, I said. We found the command center sealed tight. Inside was a single survivor, a boy, maybe 10 years old, tucked under a console, eyes wide, pupils blown. He whispered one thing. They didn't kill my parents. They took them. Took them. Not killed. This wasn't just a counterattack. It was experimentation. The Korthians had a new objective. Back on the dropship, we broadcast the findings to command. Silence. Then denial. Then orders to stand down and await diplomatic resolution. Diplomatic? I threw the comm against the wall hard enough to dent the plating. Grant didn't flinch. They won't pretend it didn't happen, he said. They're going to feed us to the fire. I growled. He grinned, cigar still in his teeth. Then let's light the damn fire ourselves. I stared out at the void, where the stars shimmered with unknowable threat. The fight wasn't over. It never had been. Humanity had tasted war. We had bled, burned, lost, and learned. But now, we weren't just soldiers. We were survivors sharpened into weapons. War-forged, patient, focused, and furious. Let the galaxy believe we were done. Because when we came back, we bring heat no species had ever survived. It's one thing to go to war with orders. Another entirely to do it without permission. When you go rogue, you don't just fight the enemy. You fight the system that built you, trained you, decorated you, and then told you to stand down. We stole Valor's Edge within 6 hours. Technically, it wasn't theft. Our mission log still showed us deployed to Gamma 9. Command hadn't revoked clearance yet. Bureaucracy is a beautiful blindfold when you know how to tie it tight. Major Grant rerouted the AI core while I convinced the crew that we were responding to continued civilian threat signals. No one asked questions. Everyone on board had seen the footage from the massacre. Everyone had heard that kid whisper about his parents. This wasn't about orders anymore. It was about retribution. And something else, something darker. The Korthians weren't just attacking. They were evolving. Gamma 9 was different from their usual scorching slaughter raids. This was surgical, strategic. We needed answers. And we knew where to start. The black market moon of Chiron Theta orbited just outside Alliance jurisdiction. A rogue rock loaded with war criminals, smugglers, and ex-intelligence officers who couldn't or wouldn't retire. It stank of fuel, sweat, and treachery. Perfect place to find the truth. Grant and I docked under falsified IDs. I wore civilian leathers, but my walk still screamed military. You can't fake a Helljumper's gait. It's somewhere between a march and a threat. We pushed through the neon-lit corridors of the trade dome until we reached a bar called the Hollow Vein, a place where questions went to die and secrets went to drink. That's where we found Svalinn, once a Korthian defector, now a trafficker in information. He sat in the back, his insectal limbs folded like prayer hands, sipping something that smelled like melted metal. "You shouldn't be here," he clicked an accented standard. "We shouldn't be alive either," I shot back. "Yet here we are." His mandibles twitched. The war ended. "No," I said. It paused. That got his attention. He leaned in. "Then you've seen it. The Harvest Protocol." I froze. That phrase, Harvest Protocol, was a ghost, a rumor that surfaced once or twice during deep ops. A classified term buried under redacted files. Now it had a name, and it had returned. "What are they harvesting?" I asked. "Not what," Ras murmured. "Who?" We paid in war credits and silence. Ras gave us coordinates. Not to a fleet, but to a testing site. An abandoned orbital prison from the early days of the Alliance, repurposed for genetic experimentation. Not even the Korthian high houses know about this one. Rask warned. "It is not conquest anymore. It is collection. And your kind, you're the prize species." He was right. Humans were the anomaly. We thrive where no one should. We adapted, endured, evolved faster than the databanks could categorize. Death Worlders, they called us, but even that term fell short. To the Korthians, we were chaos wrapped in carbon, and they wanted to understand us, which meant tearing us apart, piece by piece, until they figured out what made us resilient. Grant clenched his fists. They think they can study us like we're insects, take our people apart to figure out how we survive their hell. "They don't understand," I said, stepping forward. "Understand what?" Rask asked. "That it's not about what we are," I whispered. "It's about what we become when you back us into a corner." He clicked his mandibles nervously. "Then I suggest you act quickly. They've begun testing on live captives. Children, soldiers, colonists. Children." The kid from Gamma 9's terrified eyes came back to me like a punch to the chest. We left Chiron Theta before Rask finished his drink. The prison satellite hovered in the dark like a rusted god, orbiting a dead star. No transponders. No defense grid. Just quiet horror. As we approached in stealth mode, the sensors began pinging life signs. Dozens. Maybe more. Human. Alive. And screaming. My pulse steadied. My hand stopped shaking. A strange clarity overtook me. Cold, focused, surgical. This wasn't going to be a rescue. This was going to be a reckoning. We readied our gear. Loaded armor-piercing rounds. Synced up to neurocoms. The ship AI asked for confirmation. Mission objective? My voice was a knife. Make them remember why they feared us. We breached the orbital station at 0400 shipboard time. No alarms. No guards. Just silence thick enough to choke on. The outer airlocks responded with an old code still buried in Alliance military archives. The Korthians had recycled everything. Our facilities, our tech, even our operating systems. Fitting, because we were about to recycle their bones. The interior corridors were a nightmare preserved in steel. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. casting shadows that twitched and stretched across the grime-covered floors. Scratches clawed into the walls marked desperate resistance. Fingernail gouges, maybe, or talons. Our boots echoed through the halls. I could feel the pulse of restrained violence in every step Grant took behind me. Our team was small, just 4 of us. Veterans, ghosts in armor. We didn't need numbers. We were the knife in the dark. Sykes, our demolitions expert, dropped a sensor beacon and gave me a curt nod. No thermal readings on patrols. Feels like a ghost ship. No, I muttered. Feels like a lab. Then the screaming started. It was faint at first, muffled, guttural, 1 floor below. We moved fast, descending an elevator shaft manually. No lights, no power, just a grinding clank of magnet grips as we slid down cables into the dark belly of the beast. The first cell block was pure horror. 6 cells, transparent polymer doors. Inside, humans. Barely. A girl no older than 16 stared at us through one good eye, her other eye a milky haze of scar tissue. She didn't flinch, didn't speak. The boy next to her was twitching in his sleep, drenched in sweat and strapped to a wall-mounted restraint chair. An array of sensors stuck out his skull like antennae. Open them, I snapped. Sykes got to work. The moment the doors hissed open, the girl collapsed. I caught her in time. Her body was light. Too light. Ribs sharp under skin like tissue paper. She smelled like antiseptic and fear. I'm Lieutenant Calderon. I whispered. You're safe now. No, she rasped. You're too late. They're still here. We swept the block, releasing 8 more captives. Some walked, some crawled. None of them spoke much, just whispered about the whispers. The visions, the voices the Korthians made them hear. I checked one of the control panels. Grant leaned in. They were running neural echo loops, he said, grimacing. Dream jacking memory extraction. Old tech, but now they've upgraded it. We were still processing that when Sykes called out. Found it, he said. Central lab. Sublevel 9. We were on sublevel 3. I looked at the rescued kids. We couldn't take them with us. Not down there. It'd be suicide. Grant made the call. Seal this floor. Leave 2 with the survivors. The rest move with us. I nodded. No mercy. He smiled. Never was. Sublevel 9 was the heart of it. The air changed as we descended. It got colder, thicker, the kind of atmosphere that hummed with unseen power, like a reactor running on screams. Doors opened into a massive chamber, round and domed, lit by an eerie violet glow. Along the far wall, 5 Korthian scientists, long-limbed, masked, unarmed. Behind them, in massive stasis pods, floated human subjects. One of the Korthians stepped forward and raised his clawed hand. You do not understand what we've begun, he said. His translator hummed with a slow, patient cadence. You're dissecting people. I growled. That's not science. That's butchery. No, it is transcendence. He gestured toward one of the pods. Inside it floated a hybrid form. Humanoid, yes, but altered. Bones denser. Neural web expanded. It was evolving. You see only horror. We see potential. You are not creatures of destruction. You are the key. Grant raised his rifle. You want to unlock the human mind? Try this. He fired. The first round ripped through the Korthian's skull like paper. The others didn't even scream. They tried to run. Didn't get far. Sykes lobbed a plasma charge into their path. The blast rocked the chamber. Fire washed across the tiles. And just like that, every Korthian scientist in the room turned to ash and vapor. We destroyed the pods. We made sure nothing left behind could ever be rebuilt. Then we rigged the station to explode. On our way out, we retrieved the survivors. One of them, the girl with the scarred eye, asked me something that still echoes in my mind. Are you going to stop them all? I paused, looked her dead in the eye. No, I said, we're going to end them. And I meant it, because this wasn't an isolated station. This was the first. A testing ground. Proof of concept. The Korthians had made a mistake. They tried to weaponize human evolution. Now they were going to learn what happens when you push humanity to adapt, to survive. We don't just evolve. We overcome, and we fight back harder. We left the prison satellite burning behind us, a silent, drifting graveyard in the void. Command still hadn't acknowledged the Gamma 9 incident. No official recall. No reprimands. That told me everything I needed to know. They weren't ignoring us. They were afraid of what we'd found. The Council didn't want a second war. Too costly. Too soon. But we were already knee-deep in it. And this wasn't a war of borders anymore. It was a war for our identity. The Korthians didn't want our territory. They wanted our DNA. Our resilience. Our fury. They wanted to understand what made humanity rise from ashes again and again, and how to steal that fire for themselves. But you can't dissect willpower. You can't bottle vengeance. We had to strike back, not with fleets, not with formality, with ghosts. We started recruiting off-grid, former spec ops, ex-Marines, discharged psychos, and quiet legends from the blacklist. The kind of humans you call when peace needs a bullet through the skull. We called ourselves Unit Svalinn, named after the ancient Norse shield said to protect the world from the sun's wrath. We weren't shields anymore. We were the sun. Intel from Rask led us to our next target, a deep space arcship drifting through the Hyades expanse. It looked abandoned on scans, derelict and long forgotten. But Rask's files told a different story. This is not a ship, he warned us over encrypted comms. It is a collector, a flying vault, thousands of test subjects, some not even human, but many are. You won't like what you find inside. He was right. We breached the vessel using a thermal cutter, slicing through decayed hull plates and venting ancient air. The stench was immediate. Rot, rust, recycled pain. Inside, gravity was half-stabilized. Lights flickered. Systems groaned. The ship was awake, but sick. And then we heard it. The humming. Not machinery. Voices. Low. Wordless. Inhuman. "They're not dead," whispered Sykes. He was right. The first chamber we entered was filled with containment pods, each one holding a humanoid figure. Some visibly human, others altered, mutated, stretched, enhanced. They twitched in sync with the humming. What the hell did they do? Grant muttered, his voice tight. "Conditioning," I said. "Bioneural programming. They've turned them into weapons." He looked at me. "You sure they're not already dead?" One of the pods cracked open. The figure inside stepped out, naked, shivering, and smiling. "I remember you," he said. I froze. "Do I know you?" "I remember your species," he clarified. "They said you'd come. They said you'd burn the stars to get us back." He dropped to his knees, trembling, whispering something over and over. "The fight's not over. The fight's not over." Then came the klaxons. The Korthians were still aboard, and they'd just woken up their pets. The walls split open with a shriek, revealing spindly defense drones and half-grown war beasts. Chimera things stitched from a dozen species. Their eyes were human. That was the worst part. We opened fire. No hesitations. No warnings. Grant went full auto. Sykes dropped heat charges into the corridor behind us, sealing off reinforcements. I dove toward the awakened hybrid, pulled him behind cover. "Do you remember where they kept the others?" I shouted. He nodded fast. Deck 7, below the gene cradle. We fought our way down 5 levels, carving through creatures that were almost human but moved like nightmares. The Korthians had tried to replicate our adaptability. They failed. You can't clone purpose. You can't manufacture spite. And we were pissed. Deck 7 was a horror museum. Pods lined the walls. Some held infants. Others, elders. War veterans from colonies that had been declared missing in action. All of them alive. Most of them still aware. "They kept us dreaming," one whispered. "Used our thoughts to code the next batch." We initiated full evac. Burned every pod we couldn't open. Carried those we could. As the ship's reactor started to destabilize, Sykes stayed behind to overload the fusion core. His last words were calm. "Tell the Korthians I wasn't even trying yet." Then Valor's Edge jumped just as the arc ship exploded behind us. the shockwave painting the stars in silent fire. We had proof now. Proof the Korthians weren't just experimenting. They were building an army, using our people as the blueprint. The Council could ignore one outpost, maybe even two. But this was war. And humanity doesn't pause when pushed. We ignite. There's a moment in every war when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. A tipping point where denial snaps like brittle glass. That moment came 12 hours after we destroyed the Ark ship. By then, the broadcast had gone viral, whether we wanted to or not. The data dumped from the Ark ship's black box hit every back channel in the galaxy. Video logs, genetic blueprints, footage of living humans used as programming stock for bioengineer horrors. The Korthians couldn't spin it, couldn't hide it. They'd been caught with a scalpel in their claw, and our blood on the table. And still, the Galactic Council issued no declaration of war, just silence. And silence, in times like these, is complicity. So we made our own declaration. We called it Operation Emberwake, a coordinated strike on 6 key Korthian facilities in one solar cycle. Shipyards, research hubs, a genetics crucible, and one of their deep void relay stations. It wasn't sanctioned. It wasn't clean. But it would be remembered. The target we were assigned was the Verdac Spire, a kilometer-long biological research facility suspended in the clouds of a gas giant, a floating cathedral of agony. They called it a lab. We called it a butcher's tower. And it had to fall. Our plan was simple. Infiltrate the outer hull using environmental suits modified for corrosive gas. Disable their atmospheric stabilizers. Trigger a controlled descent into the planet's crushing lower layers. Exfil by shuttle just before the facility collapsed. Simple doesn't mean easy, especially when the whole place was built from living tissue and semi-sentient architecture. Yeah, it breathed. I could feel it through the soles of my boots. A pulse, a throb, like we were walking across the back of some sleeping god. Grant took point. His visor glowed in the dark mist, scanning for heat signatures. 2 guards. Ahead, Korthian technicians. Unarmed. Doesn't matter, I said. They're complicit. He didn't need convincing. We moved like ghosts. Quiet, brutal, efficient. They didn't scream. Inside the core chamber, we found something worse than corpses. We found success. Rows of humanoid constructs floated in suspension gel, their bodies spliced with alien organ structures, redundant lungs, backup hearts, enhanced cortical folds. All based on us. They weren't trying to imitate humans anymore. They were trying to improve us, steal the shape, overwrite the soul. And just to be sure we got the message, they left a message carved into the far wall. In English, perfection requires sacrifice. That was the last straw. We planted the charges in the stabilizer pylons and set the detonation timer. 15 minutes. We made it to the shuttle pad with 7 to spare, just as the atmosphere began to shift. Winds howled. Lightning licked the sky like serpents. But we weren't alone. An emergency hangar opened below the platform. Out stepped something new. 7 feet tall. Human shape. Korthian eyes. Perfect symmetry. It moved with grace, not the twitchy stiffness of most bioclones. Identification, it said in a calm voice that wasn't synthesized. Are you the origin? What the hell is that? Sykes whispered. I stepped forward, my gun trained on his chest. I'm the reminder, I said. The thing smiled. Then it ran, faster than any creature I've ever seen, across steel and lightning, leaping through the air. It crashed into Sykes and sent him flying into a bulkhead. Grant lit it up with armor-piercing rounds. They staggered it, but it didn't fall. Get on the bird. I shouted. Grant dragged Sykes into the shuttle. I stayed behind, emptied an entire mag into the clone skull, and launched a thermal spike at its chest. It finally dropped. Not dead, just resetting. Its last words chilled me more than the gas storm whipping around us. You are not the first. Then the pad cracked beneath my feet. I dove into the shuttle as the spire began its death spiral. We rose as it fell, plummeting into the gas giant's endless red clouds. Explosions chased us upward, lighting the sky with fire and fury. Then silence. The Verdac spire was gone. Later, back aboard Valor's Edge, we reviewed the combat footage. The clone had survived 4 headshots. Bone like armor, skin like synthetic weave. And that voice human, but not quite. They had made something new. And it knew us. We weren't fighting soldiers anymore. We were fighting reflections. Distorted, engineered, ruthless. But there's one thing you can't clone. Rage. And humanity? We were just getting angry. The galaxy thought the Korthian threat was theoretical. Then Verdac's spire burned. And everything changed. Footage of the hybrid. Leaping through plasma fire. Taking rounds to the skull. Grinning with human teeth. Was leaked across 50 systems in less than a day. The Council called it unverified. The Union of Species demanded dialogue. The media called it a military misunderstanding. But the people, they saw the truth. The war wasn't over. It had just mutated. And now, every species was wondering when humanity would finally unleash what we've been holding back. The answer? Right now. We had a location, Red Halo. Officially, it was a decommissioned mining station orbiting a burnout dwarf star. Unofficially, it was a black site where the Korthians ran their deepest research, genetic archives, memory print backups, command algorithms. The place where they stored the essence of everything they were trying to steal. This was the brain behind the beast. We didn't go to Red Halo to fight. We went there to erase. The insertion was a death sentence. The orbit was unstable. Radiation levels could fry a shuttle in minutes. The station's outer shell was shielded with carbon forged metal and lined with automated laser nests. No fleet could crack it open without losing half its armada. So we didn't bring a fleet. We brought 3 people. Grant, myself, and Lena Voss. A ghost. Classified. Officially Kia 3 years ago. She had once been the top mind in neural warfare. Then she vanished after a raid on a Korthian relay ship. Now she was back, reassembled with metal bones and an ocular implant that glowed like hell's candle. I've seen what they're building, she told us in the drop bay. They don't just want to understand us. They want to replace us. I asked the question I've been dreading. With what? She stared at me and said, something smarter, stronger, but with no soul. We dropped from orbit in a stealth capsule no larger than a torpedo, hit the shell of Red Halo like a spear, breached it with thermal lances, and rolled into the corridor weapons hot. The interior was worse than Verdac's spire. Rows of databanks lined the walls, pulsing with biological light. They weren't just storing information. They were storing consciousness. Human minds downloaded and dissected, personalities mapped and copied. We found one labeled Calderon R. Light First OD Core. It was me, a digital ghost, caught mid-sentence. My voice looped. If you're seeing this, then they've already won. Grant crushed the console with his boot. I didn't like the ending, he muttered. Voss uploaded a virus through a neural port in her arm. Red Halo began to scream. Literally. The AI shrieked in panic as systems shut down, files shredded, backups purged. Then the hybrid arrived. 5 of them, all human-shaped, all smiling. They didn't speak. They moved in formation, fast and fluid, like dancers made of knives. The first clash was a blur. One of them disarmed Grant in half a second. Another pinned me with bone blades that extended from its wrists. Voss unleashed an electroshock pulse that staggered too, but not enough. We can't kill them with fire, she shouted. They're built to survive it. Then what do we use? I gritted, dodging a razor swipe. She looked up. Gravity. The Red Halo had a gravity well reactor buried in its core, originally designed to keep the station from being pulled into the dead star below. Voss rerouted it. Reverse polarity. Nullify containment. Let the star claim what was never meant to exist. We ran. The hybrids chased us all the way to the hangar. One managed to grab Voss by the throat. She smiled. I already triggered it. The reactor imploded in silence. Just a ripple in the void, then a collapse. The hybrids were sucked into the singularity before they even screamed. We barely made it to the evac capsule. Grant piloted through the debris as the entire station folded into itself, becoming a memory swallowed by the void. Red Halo was gone. So were their backups. And the message was clear. You want to steal our essence? Then you better be ready to burn with it. Back aboard Valor's Edge, we sat in silence. Voss removed her eye implant, handed it to me. "Play it," she said. I did. It showed a Korthian High Lord, addressing an unseen audience. Their weakness is not biological. It is spiritual. They fight with love, with memory, with pain. This is their disease. But we will find a cure. I looked up. No, I said, you won't. Because humans don't break. We don't submit. We adapt. We fight. We remember. I used to think the worst thing a soldier could hear was silence after fighting. Now I know better. The worst thing you can hear is applause. We returned from Red Halo to find the council chamber cheering. Not for us. For de-escalation. For the Korthian Concordat, a ceasefire brokered in backrooms, inked in lies, and sealed with smiles. They called it progress. They called it diplomacy. They called it closure. But the footage from Red Halo never aired. The world never saw the hybrids. Never saw the backup files we destroyed. Never saw the truth. They were burying it all. Because peace, even false peace, was profitable. I stood in the council hall, still smelling of plasma burns and melted steel, while Chancellor Varen read his speech to an ocean of sycophants and diplomats. The conflict is behind us. Let this be a new chapter of unity. And then he had the gall to say it. Let us thank the humans for their restraint. I stepped forward. Grant tried to stop me. I didn't stop. I walked right up to the podium, took the Chancellor's mic, and looked every species in that chamber dead in the eye. You think this war is over? You think we were restrained? You have no idea what we're capable of. You don't even understand what we are. There were gasps. Security moved in. Didn't matter. I kept talking. The Korthians came to take our strength, our memories, our spirit, and you let them. You still are. I held up a data crystal. It hummed with raw truth, testimonies, footage, biometrics, AI logs. You want restraint? Here it is. I crushed the crystal under my boot. You get nothing else. They called me a radical after that, a rogue officer, a dissident. They said I endangered peace. But peace is a lie without justice. So I left, and so did Unit Svalinn. We vanished, disappeared into the black, where wars still brew and truths still rot beneath bureaucratic smiles. We became the last firewall between what's human and what wants to replace us. The fight isn't clean anymore. We strike from the shadows. We hit rogue Korthian labs, burn hybrid hives before they finish gestating, extract survivors from ghost stations the council pretends not to know about. We're not alone. More are joining us every cycle. Voss rebuilt herself. Twice. Grant leads fire teams from the Rim, training next-gen warriors with scars on their souls and fury in their blood. We don't take prisoners. We don't leave proof. We warn them once. Then we make sure they remember why Earth was quarantined for so long. The galaxy thinks we're gone, that we've gone quiet. They're wrong. We're just waiting, because the next time they come, we won't fight to survive. We'll fight to finish it. And when the dust clears, there'll be a message carved into the stars. You pushed us too far. You mistook patience for peace. You thought the fight was over, but humans were just getting warmed up